Did you know that the body is one of the most sophisticated self-healing systems on the earth? And yet most of us are never taught how to live inside of this remarkable, marvelous, extraordinary body. We treat our bodies like machines or problems to solve or something separate from our minds, something to fix, something we have to override, we have to ignore, we have to become numb to. We compare ourselves constantly to others, when the truth is that this is the foundation of your house. It is your house. Your body and your mind, that's your universe. And it is the foundation of this new season of Let's Talk. Your body and your mind are yours, ours, our first home. And when you learn to live inside of it with awareness, with respect and care, everything in your life begins to be reorganized. Hello, my friends. Welcome to Let's Talk, produced by Wise Mindly Inc. I'm your host, Coach Che Marville. In this space, we dive into transformative conversations that hopefully inspire you to grow, heal, and have a deeper connection to yourself and to the world around you. So let's talk, let's connect, let's grow together. My friends, welcome to the new season of Let's Talk. I'm Coach Che Marville, and this season is dedicated to better health in mind, body, spirit, and soul, but not in the usual way that we talk about these things. Not health as performance, not health as optimization. Definitely you're going to hear the word longevity. Not health also as control or punishment. This season is about deep understanding of the human system, body, mind together with our spirit, that each of us has this miraculous, extraordinary formula that is about us finding out about who we are. And then optimizing what we know, what we discover, what we're curious about. Because we are living in a time of extraordinary change. Technology has transformed how we work, how we connect, how we consume information. Everything is faster. We are overwhelmed and absorbed at the same time. The hard truth is that a few companies use our content and our lives, our pain, our joys, our sufferings, and our happiness as data for profit. The reality is if we did in real life what we do in virtual life, it would be illegal to traffic in our information and our privacy. But it is what's happening. And part of what is being destroyed in that process, I'm sorry to say, my friends, is our health, is our mindset, is our attention. We are so fixated on getting to the next image or soundbite or feed or, overwhelmed by how much content is coming at us more than any other time in history. And we find ourselves disconnected, not just from ourselves, but from each other. We find ourselves unable to discern, to trust, to decipher the difference between what is true and what is not true. And that affects how we think, and it affects how we sleep, and it affects how we exist with one another. We are chronically underslept and triggered easily. We are overstimulated. We are isolated. A small number of companies are mining our attention and our data constantly for profit. And the outcome is actually, even though we know more about mental health and about how to be strong and about our well-being, we seem to do far less. Well, actually, that's not a good way to say it. We seem to be sicker in so many ways, even though we have so much more information. We're filled with anxiety. We're filled with loneliness. We're filled with burnout. We're filled with chronic illness. The disconnection from ourselves and from one another is an epidemic. It's almost like we are all walking around with PTSD. And we could say, well, it's an outcome of the last 5 years, of the pandemic, of technology that's gone wild. The reality is that there is no going back. There's only learning how to regulate, take control, and build a volume of health in ourselves that makes us resilient, that makes us mentally and physically strong. You see, the body has an incredible intelligence, and we have been conditioned out of that intelligence. We've been conditioned to sit, to memorize, to compete, to compare ourselves to others when we haven't even gotten into who we truly are. Your body is not simple, and it is not primitive. It is not something science even fully understands. We still don't even really get what consciousness is. We don't fully understand what healing is and how it operates differently in each of us. We don't even fully understand how the brain, the gut, the immune system, and the nervous system communicate with one another. We know far more than we used to. We know that they do. But exactly how is still unclear. And it's mostly unclear to each of us. The scientists may know more, and that's a good thing. But it hasn't trickled down to the rest of us as yet. We're still thinking that it's what we put into our body. It's what we see in other bodies in terms of how we know what we need. The reality is that our body regulates itself with hormones, an immune response, emotion, memory, activity, activation, and that each of us has a body that has a unique intelligence. And the problems aren't that your body is failing you, is that we've got this advanced technological physiology that no one has ever really taught us how to use. And we underestimate our mind and our body constantly. I would say, we're not good at listening to the body, especially now because we're so busy and overwhelmed and distracted. One of the most damaging myths of modern life is the idea that the mind and the body are separate, when they're not. And I remember in the 80s, Deepak Chopra on PBS talking about the mind and body connection, and Wayne Dyer. And that was 30 years ago. And although we say the right words and we understand that they are not two separate entities, that they are integrated, we still behave in this dualistic way. We still behave as though it's one or the other, instead of one is the other and the other is one. What you think affects your nervous system. What you feel affects your immune system. How you move affects and activates your moods. How you sleep affects your emotional regulation, or your ability to regulate your emotions, to feel even. This isn't philosophy. This isn't one person's point of view. This is the science of how we operate. And for thousands of years, we've had wisdom teachers who have observed the human condition, the way human beings move and operate. Presence begins in the body. We aren't beings to be fixed. I know that in 2019, and I've shared this with many of you who've listened, I think that's when I started to hit perimenopause. I was in my late 40s, and it wasn't hot flashes and joint pain. Actually, it wasn't. In fact, I think I had my first hot flash last year, and I can count maybe 5 times that I've had a hot flash. I do get warm, which is actually great in the winter, to be frank. But I digress, as I love to do. But for me, it was anxiousness. It was palpitations. And I know I've told some of you this story, but for those of you who have not met me before, it was being at the mall. Not Scarborough. It was Square One in Mississauga. And I was there because of the kids. And I felt this impending doom and anxiousness. And my heart started to beat fast. And I thought, am I having an anxiety attack? And why? I had to go sit in the car. At that moment, I did not know that was one of the first signs for me, for me to be invited aggressively into perimenopause. But that was one of the symptoms, one of the signals for me that my body was changing, that my mind was changing, that my hormones were being transformed. And there's this belief that in perimenopause, you're losing yourself, that you are becoming less. And the culture is fixated on all of the pain and the problems. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that we shouldn't pay attention to them and treat them. But the body is extraordinary. And perimenopause, it's not the change like we were told 30 years ago. It's a neurological, physiological transformation. And that if you don't understand what's happening to you, and if you don't make these tweaks, they call them lifestyle changes, and I don't like that term, but modifications, if you don't actually start to change your life, and if you don't have a team of practitioners or a physician who understands how to listen to you, you're going to have to raw dog perimenopause, and that ain't good. It's dangerous. It can destroy your mental health. It can isolate you because there are things happening to your body that you never anticipated. And if you don't understand that it could last from 1 to 10 years before your actual period stops, you might actually think you're going crazy. But here's the thing. There is this incredible science in perimenopause about what you are gestating and giving birth to, this new woman. And it is not about being less, but it is about understanding who you are becoming in order to live the best part of your life. That's why I've become, I think last year was, it was such a powerful year because I felt like I was so clear about what was going on. And I wrote my book that's coming out in a few months, Rebirth, which was all about harnessing the signals of perimenopause and understanding the science, the physiology of what is happening to you during this period, and not becoming invisible, refusing to accept that you should be sick, that you should be in pain, and that you don't matter. Perimenopause actually helped me to understand the power of my life and the power of my experience as a woman. And I don't think perimenopause only happens to women. I think there's a menopause that men go through. We just don't know how to talk about it. We just haven't gathered all the knowledge. And listen, I'm going to let the advocates for men gather that knowledge, because I think we are nowhere close to understanding what happens to women's bodies and what all women need. All women, all around the world, who are somewhere between the age of 38 and 55, they will and are experiencing some form of perimenopause. They are somewhere in that spectrum, even when they think they're not. The anger, the sadness, the rage, the sore joints, the palpitations, the anxiousness, the hot flashes, and the list is far longer than I'm saying. But what does this have to do with better health? Well, you see, here's the thing. We live in a culture that always wants to fix the things that are going wrong rather than understand what's happening and understand that there are things happening to us that are about signals of the body changing and transforming. And that when we pay attention to those signals, those signs, they can be early interventions for different diseases like heart disease or cancer. They can change our ability to strengthen our bodies so that we don't have osteoporosis and end up spending the rest of our lives, our 60s, 70s, 80s, and 90s in pain. You see, when we understand the miraculous nature of our bodies, we can harness the signals. We can pay attention to them. And then, not only can we heal, but we can be stronger than we were in our 20s and our 30s. Yes, we can. So I just found that the process of perimenopause taught me so many things, and I realized something important. I realized something essential. Perimenopause forced me to listen to my body, to not take anything for granted, to understand that I moved differently, that my sleep requirements were different, and that when I understood that, I could care for myself in a way that Shay of 20 and Shay of 30 and Shay of 40 and Shay of 45 did not need in the same way. And I think there's so many of you that are suffering because you believe that you should be the person you were when you were 28. But here's the thing, when you were 28, did you love yourself? Did you like yourself? Did you think you were beautiful? And now you look back at those pictures and you're like, oh my God, I can't believe I look like that. We need to love ourselves in this now, in this moment. And that's why I wrote Rebirth, because, I believe that, number one, by not talking about what we experience in our 40s, it makes our stories invisible. It makes us invisible to ourselves. Number two, in recognizing, acknowledging, and caring about ourselves from a place of compassion and love and deep, deep care and nourishment, that we save our lives. We save our lives. And we change the trajectory of the dimensions of well-being, our professional lives, our emotional lives, our physical lives, our spiritual lives. In 2019, I would say, I also was experiencing, this was the other thing that sort of indicated to me that something really transformational was happening. I've always been a very optimistic person. I've always been a very, I'll find the solution no matter the problem person. And I've always been madly creative. And in 2019, I started to feel depleted of creative energy. I started to feel as though I didn't have energy. And I sort of went into 2020 feeling like that, not knowing how to name it. And then, of course, the pandemic happened. And then what happened in the pandemic? There's the shutdown that's global. Everyone's stuck at home. The company that I was consulting for actually got rid of all of their consultants. And my mother died. My mother contracted COVID, and it was a shocking and stunning thing. And some of you who have listened to the show for the last 5 years know the story. She lived in her own condo and was doing really well in the city. And after the first lockdown, she went to the doctor to get tests, and she was a really smart woman, and she was convinced that the lockdown was going to go on for a long time. So she wanted to get care and get prescriptions and make sure she had everything she needed. And somewhere in that week of visiting the hospital and healthcare practitioners, and I'm not blaming them, I'm just saying that's what happened. Somewhere between taking a cab and standing in line, outside, and then going into the hospital, she contracted COVID, and it seemed okay. The first 10 days, she was fine. On the 11th day, everything changed. And my mother was a really special human being, and she was one of my greatest teachers and a sister and a friend. The loss of her, it was physical for me. I felt it. And so in the midst of a pandemic, business loss, and perimenopause starting to hit hard, I felt like a completely different person. And I didn't feel like I had the wherewithal, the optimism. I mean, of course, there's grief, so it's hard to be optimistic in grief. But what began in that moment from 2019 to 2020 to 2021, 30 pounds of weight, interrupted sleep, this dislocation from my spiritual life, I felt lost. And then I started to study. And then I understood as I studied the women that I was coaching, and I studied myself, and I studied what was happening medically in terms of perimenopause, and realized, oh my God, I'm going through this massive change that no one prepares you for. And that change and being aware of it and all the details, all the things that start happening to your body and to the way you perceive the world and the way you perceive people, it made me want to fight for my life. I really did feel like I was in a fight for my life at one point. I felt at the end of 2021, I had to make a decision. I had to decide that my life was worthy of creating something new, and that I wasn't ready to die, and I wasn't ready to become less, and I wasn't ready to be invisible. I even at one point I decided, okay, you know what? I'm not going to try to run my business. I'm going to wait for things to get quiet. I'm going to try to find a job. And guess what? I couldn't get work. I could not get work. One person actually had the cojones to tell me that I was sort of past my prime, and that what I should think about was, just like not getting the big job for me. That period of time of getting the great big job was over. Now, they were right, but they said it for the wrong reasons. It was the first time I actually really experienced ageism. And like everything, you think it's never going to happen to you. You think ageism isn't going to happen to you. You think perimenopause isn't going to happen to you. And then it does, and you've got to save your own life. But I am digressing. I'm going to do a whole podcast on that experience and what happened. But for me and for so many women, it seems that during this period of time of perimenopause, it is when society sort of turns its back on you, tries to make you invisible, and you start to have the greatest losses in your life. Parents get old or sick or die, friends pass away, and of course, all of us around the world went through this terrible pandemic. And I don't think it's fair that only a few people get to benefit from the struggle and the suffering of the last 5 years. I think the rest of us have to decide that if we are still living, there is more right with us than wrong. And that it is our job to find the beauty in ourselves, the magical nature, the mystical nature of our lives, of our mind, of our intelligence. And that's the piece actually I wanted to tell you, is that in 2019 and 2018, I think, I was feeling sort of spiritually not quite numb, but I felt like I had hit a plateau. And then 2020 happened and 2021 happened, and I woke up. I woke up and I realized in this truly profound way that there was no separation between my mind and my body, that my mind was an activator of my body, and that my body was an activator of my mind, and that I needed to build my own company, and that I needed to create opportunity for myself, and that I could lose the 30 pounds that I gained by reorganizing my mind and my physical body. And the first thing I looked at was the patterns of behavior and the patterns that were in me. And one of the patterns that was really, not only was it disruptive, it was disruptive. It was disruptive to my life because I wasn't sleeping, and my sleep was disrupted. And that was messing around with my mood, with my ability to heal, my ability to lose weight. You see, sleep is not a luxury. Sleep is also not passive. Sleep is the body's ability to repair itself. It's essential. And in fact, I think a recent study found that getting even 46 minutes more of sleep will change your ability to be resilient, and how strong you are, or like how strong your immune system is. We are so overstimulated right now. We are so overwhelmed with content and information that we're scrolling when we should be resting. And what comes after rest? Sleep. And what happens when you're not rested and you can't sleep? Your body is dysregulated. And what happens when you're dysregulated? Everything. Things start to fall apart. Metabolically, it's hard to process food. It's hard to process the hardest things that are happening. It's hard to process your emotions. You'll find you'll say to yourself, like, why am I so agitated? What's happening now that wasn't happening before? 10 years ago, I could deal with anything, or I could deal with this simple thing that's happening. I could deal with being in a busy mall with my kids. And now I can't? What's going on? Underslept, underrested. In fact, I suggest to every woman who's in their 40s, have a nap. Have a nap. Pay attention to the patterns of behavior without being judgmental. Pay attention to what you need rather than saying, why am I like this? The question is, what do I need? What do I need? And I mentioned to you about the research, how it shows that sleep actually is associated with increasing your resilience and your well-being, right? Like, I can't say that enough. But here's the truth. Sleep hygiene is not just about sleeping and resting and healing. It's an indicator of how well you are functioning. If you're sleeping well, it's rarely because you're just like a good sleeper. You see, we've been trained to believe some of us are good sleepers and some of us are bad sleepers. Sleep is an outcome. It's usually because there is a rhythm that's working for you. And notice this, and really think about this. When you are not sleeping, rather than focus on how your sleep is dysregulated or how poorly you're sleeping, I want you to ask yourself, how do I feel? Do I feel overwhelmed? Do I feel overstimulated? Do I move a lot? Am I walking a lot? How much am I walking during the day? How much stress am I experiencing? Notice I didn't say how much stress do you have. I said, how much stress are you experiencing? You see, our lives, our body, it's an experience. It is activity. It is an activation. And here's another question that's really important. How safe do you feel? Do you feel anxious? Are you eating because you feel anxious? Are you not eating because you feel and you're experiencing stress? The question about sleep is never about the sleep. It's about what's happening before the sleep. And it's not, how do I say it? We are so harsh and so judgmental about the things that are not working for ourselves that we will judge our ability to sleep and our ability to process stress and our ability to deal with hard things harshly, rather than saying, what do I need? What do I need to care for myself? What do I need to love myself? How do I love myself through perimenopause? How do I invest in nurturing and nourishing myself through the things that are hard and painful? Some really simple things that we need to do, that you need to do in order to increase your sleep. And like, this is just about looking after the mind and the body. Aerobic movement. I'm not talking about the number on your scale and your fitness level in this moment. What I'm talking about is, are you actually moving the body? You know? Are you moving the body? Are you dancing? Are you running? Are you cycling? Are you getting rid of all those stress hormones through movement? We are designed to move. We are designed to lift heavy things. We are designed to be physically engaged. Do you go outside? Do you breathe with the trees? Do you feel and smell the air? And if you say to me, well, Shay, I live in an area where it's not easy to walk, or go to a park, go to a forest, go, not alone. Movement, breathing, being outside, not being sedentary. This helps to regulate your body, and it's actually preparing you to be tired, to want to rest at the end of the night. Now here's another one, and I know so many people say this. I hear this all the time. Shay, I can't meditate. I don't have the energy for it. I don't have the attention span for it. I can't sit for 1 minute. Okay. Don't. But spend some time on purpose noticing your breath in, noticing your breath out, and doing something slowly. If you can't sit quietly or in prayer, or you find that your mind is racing and feeling like you have somewhere else to go, please don't judge. Stop. Rest. Resist the thinking inside that says, I have to. You don't. Mindfulness is when we build an awareness that's internal of our ability to reason, to be quiet, to sit, to notice. And often when you go outside, like when you're walking around in a park or in a forest or a valley, or you're doing something that allows you to look and see other things, you actually start to become very mindful. Mindfulness isn't always this. That's not all that it is. We all have the ability to be mindful. We all have the ability to create places of rest. And when we do that, when we rest our mind and our thinking, we start to create an internal regulation that helps us to get to restful sleep. Nature, breathing the oxygen of the trees, breathing, walking on the ground, feeling the grass or the crispy snow, or running through water. We are a living system. We're not a machine. We are not computers. We require life. We are a life force. So movement, breathing, mindful in nature, not sitting, and doing it consistently. But here's the other thing that's really difficult. And I'd like to actually practice this with you. I want to find a little practice actually to share with you. Do you remember I talked about not judging, being compassionate with yourself? This is also part of creating a good formula that's unique to you for sleep. Right now, and I don't know if you've heard this conversation that's happening about estranged families. There are many people who are, especially around the holidays, and we're just coming out of the holidays. You're going to listen to this podcast in the first week of January. And a lot of people probably have experienced some really hard things. So people are disconnected from families, or they don't want to talk to their families or their friends that they are no longer speaking to. We've gotten into this practice of avoiding conflict, of avoiding hard things. And how does this relate to sleeping? Well, so many of us think that if we don't talk about the things that are hard, if we don't acknowledge the things that are hard, that somehow they will go away, or we don't have to deal with them. But that's not how our mind works. That's not how our consciousness works. It's always there. And the power of mindfulness and meditation and like some of these tools for awareness is that by acknowledging pain, acknowledging the things that make us suffer, that hurt us. Like when I was first entering perimenopause and the pandemic hit, and I lost the consulting work that I was doing, that was really, really the biggest chunk of my income. And then my mother passed away, and I started to face my own health issues. Pretending that it wasn't happening wasn't the way to heal it. It wasn't the way to get through it. The way to get through it was to acknowledge that it was happening, and to realize that in this moment of hurt, it wasn't about fixing, but it was about facing. And you see, you can face it. You are so much stronger. We all are more resilient than we think. We think somehow that if we don't acknowledge the pain or the suffering or the struggle, that it will go away. And so when it comes to dealing with family members or friends that have hurt us, or we feel burdened by, we stay away from them rather than address it. And then what happens is that staying away becomes longer and longer, and then it gets harder and harder to come back. And I know I'm talking about a number of things all together, but they're all related because we aren't computers. We are a complex, life-giving, life force system. And that what happens in our mind is related to what happens in our body, and what happens in our mind and our body keeps us dysregulated and awake and unhappy and sad. And I want you to try this practice, metta practice, or it's called Maitrian in the Buddhist tradition, or in English it's loving kindness. I want to encourage you in this moment to understand that your body is not an obstacle to overcome or a problem to solve. Your body, our bodies are our first homes. And our homes change over time. And our homes require different stimuli and care and rest and sleep and love, movement, awareness, kindness. And that our health is an evolving, ongoing, moving life force. Yes? Yes. So I want to get to this. Loving kindness practice. And I'm just going to do a simple one for you to think about. So if you can, if you've hung on, and I hope you have, find a space in your room in which you are comfortable. And in this practice, I want to encourage you to be mindful and loving of yourself, of your deepest needs, and to be here right now. So find a place that's comfortable. If you can sit, don't lay down. If you can sit, and try to sit up as straight as you can. I like to place my hands on my stomach, which is expanded through perimenopause. And I call it my estrogen pack. Anyways, I like to put my hands on my estrogen pack. And then lengthen up, as though there's a string pulling you through the crown of your head, and your sternum lifts. And in order to lift the sternum, pull the shoulder blades, try to press the shoulder blades together. And it's going to feel a bit awkward as you're sitting, but the spine is long, sternum is lifted, shoulders are back slightly, hands are on the lower belly, on the estrogen pack there. And if you are willing, if you can, close your eyes. And let that space between your eyebrows soften. Let your eyebrows soften. Let all of your facial muscles, let them soften. And take a breath in. And then allow that breath to find her way out by opening the mouth wide. And then bring that breath in. And then hold the breath. And now exhale the breath. And take one more breath in. And then hold, make a fist with your hands. And then release. Take the hands back to the lower belly, or place them on your thighs or in your lap. And then listen to my voice. And just allow yourself to melt. May I be peaceful and light in my body and in my mind. May I be safe and free from accidents. May I be free from anger and overwhelm. May I be free in this moment of my worries. May I know how to look at myself with the eyes of understanding and compassion. May I know how to nourish my mind and my heart. May I feel joy in this moment. May I feel in this moment. And as you allow those thoughts to fill you up, and as you try to remember what I said, imagine a space between your eyebrows, that space that we ask to soften. And can you see your face there? And this is going to be hard, but can you look in your own eyes? You know that woman, that man, that being. Can you look in their eyes? And can you hold their shoulders? And now, can you offer those words to that woman, that man that is you? And maybe say, dear one, dear love of my life, may you be peaceful. May you be filled with light in mind, body, and spirit. May you be safe and well. May you be free from the burden of anger and rage. May your worries melt away. May you feel love for yourself and this moment. May you recognize the seeds of your own joy, your own happiness, your own peace. May you be fresh to this new moment, to this new day. May you understand that you are a life force. And now your eyes are closed and you are holding the shoulders of this woman, this man that is you. And I want you to kiss them right on the forehead, above that space between the eyebrows. And say this: may you know that you are so deeply loved. My friends, listen to me. We are living through a very complicated and confusing time. The things that we have known, that have taken for granted, have disappeared, and we are building and rebuilding. Love yourself through this time. Be kind to yourself through this time. Believe in yourself during this time. And may you know that I'm here every week, sending you love and goodness and kindness and compassion. And this year, Let's Talk is all about health in mind, body, and spirit through compassion and love and joy and breath and mindfulness. In the sanctity of this moment, I say to you the words that define the word namaste. May the light in me bow to the light in you. Bye for now. And remember, send your feedback, share the show, subscribe if you haven't. But let's build together. My friends, thank you for joining me on Let's Talk, produced by Wise Mindly Inc. I hope today's conversation inspired you to take action, reflect, or embrace on a new way of thinking, on a new path. And if you enjoyed today's episode, and hopefully you did, don't forget to subscribe, share, and even leave a review. Reviews matter. They allow us to do way more than we're doing now. Let's continue the journey of growth and well-being together. Until next time, I'm Coach Che Marville. Stay connected, stay curious, and let's keep talking.